If we end up building the payment system of tomorrow on chain exactly as it looks like today in the world, then I don't think we've done it justice. But I think what that means is that you'll see people evolve in their roles exactly as you were suggesting. I think people will take, there'll be new places that players can play. But if you really believe, which I 100% do, which is the world is moving on chain. And that means actually you do need the traditional players to be accepting and adapting and connecting to the on-chain world. You do need the crypto natives to be pulling the on-chain world even further into more directions.
Hello everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Chris Storaker, and today we have a really exciting guest. We have May Zabaneh, who is a VP of Product and Crypto for PayPal. So really excited to have you here today, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, really great to be here.
Yeah, well, I guess it's also great times for crypto at PayPal. We've seen PYUSD go from about $1 billion in market cap, and now we're hovering at 2.3 last time I checked. So it's a huge increase. PYUSD is now comfortably within the 100 largest cryptocurrencies worldwide. It's also comfortably as well within the 10 largest stablecoins out there. So really excited to learn about what's going on and what are the plans that you guys have. But if I may, can we start by stepping back in time? PYUSD was launched in August 2023, so over 2 years ago, which is a really, really long timing for crypto, and particularly with everything that's happened around regulation and adoption of stablecoins. If you can you share a little bit on why PayPal was so early and why it was interested in going into the stablecoin world and issuing its own stablecoin to begin with?
When you think about just our history as PayPal, we've got decades-long experience in commerce and connecting both consumers and merchants around the world. We're constantly looking at just different ways and technologies to more value back to our users, and specifically in this domain. And so as we think about that, one of the most fascinating things for us with blockchain technology and the emergence of cryptocurrencies, the real heart and mission and purpose of why we really entered this space is to have our a branded stablecoin. It's issued by Paxos, and to be able to integrate that deeper into payment use cases. Imagine being able to now, instead of customers who want to send a cross-border payment, instead of it taking 3 to 5 days for it to settle or costing $20 to $30, it now could happen in fractions of a second and fractions of pennies. And that is super exciting for us, because that is where we feel like we can bring value back to our customers, back into their hands, and we can just drive more of these real world use cases that can adopt this technology, making it meaningful.
Can you share a bit more on why PayPal decided to go into the stablecoin business, and how does it fit with this vision for the future?
When we think about PayPal's history, we've got decades-long expertise into commerce and connecting both consumers and merchants around the world. And so when we then started evaluating the new technologies and starting to think, how do we drive more value back to our customers? And when you think about innovation, and blockchain technology was really emerging, and the use cases around it, from sending peer-to-peer, as we think about that possibility and the future and the value that it can bring back to customers and the role that we play in the ecosystem of helping connect people, it was really fascinating for us to be able to say, how can we apply this, and how can we actually integrate then things like stablecoins into our payment use cases and help really drive that value back. Where you talk about and see customers struggling when they want to send money abroad, they can spend anywhere from $20 to $30, and it could take 3 to 5 days. We can do that instantly and much cheaper, fractions of seconds, fractions of the cost for a customer to be able to send, and then the other customer to be able to receive it. And so we get really excited about this, because then I think it's a part of what our responsibility is as technology technologists and as payments experts to really think about how to broaden not only the reach, but the technology to be able to improve people's lives.
And so what I got from that response, okay, you're seeing this pain point that, you know, like consumers and merchants were having in doing payments with each other. What was the value that you were seeing from doing this over stablecoin rails? Because you could have done, well, PayPal has huge reach. I don't know, probably more than 100 or so between Venmo and PayPal, 100 million people, merchants in the millions as well. You could have done this over a closed loop. So what's the rationale behind adding a stablecoin to the mix?
Yeah, stablecoins are super powerful in a sense that they provide the 24/7 operability. They provide financial inclusion much broader than the ecosystem can provide, the payments ecosystem. And it can connect people even if they're outside of the PayPal wallets, right? And so that's a really powerful, these are attributes that are actually extremely important and can now really help move commerce beyond boundaries, beyond walls, beyond wallets, and beyond aspects. And that's extremely powerful. And so as you think about driving more financial inclusion in the world, as you think about driving more seamless cross-border movements, that's where a stablecoin can help much broader than just within a PayPal to PayPal network and ecosystem.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm based in the US and I want somebody in place in South America to send me money, and where PayPal might not be as big, and this is a good way to create those interfaces outside of the PayPal ecosystem. Would that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, we have a philosophy here and it's one of our core principles at PayPal, and we call it work customer back. And so when we think of that as a principle, we embody that into everything we do. We look at all the different payment flows. We look at all the different aspects where customers interact. We come back and say, where are the pain points? Where can we help drive value? And what are customers' biggest problems that we can try to solve? And so exactly that, right? When your example is perfect because it touches on the two parts. One is it's expensive and time, and there's a lot of time involved when you're trying to move money across borders. But then two, it actually, in the country that, like you mentioned, you can name so many hundreds of countries. A lot of them suffer from there's economic instability because of the currency devaluations, right? And so there is a preference to have access to US dollars or be able to hold in US dollars, which provides them then a little bit more of that economic stability. Obviously, they'll want to get out of it into their local currency, but then they have that choice to be able to when they want to. And that's very powerful and important for the economic livelihood of people. And then you take that even further, right? And you think of just infrastructure that's available, how mobile wallets have become so well adopted, or just mobile, right? Technology, and in those regions, they've leapfrogged adoption in so many ways. And so now you start imagining essentially that now their smartphones have transformed into a place they can earn, send, and spend a stable currency and connect to people around the world.
And in that context, especially when we think about emerging markets, other stablecoins have been there for even longer than 2023. Yeah. Particularly Tether has a very strong foothold in those markets, and also in the exchanges that people might have access in those markets, which might not be subject to the same regulatory constraints that assets might have in the US. Where does the need for your own stablecoin come from? Why couldn't you just support other stablecoins? And is it more of, we have a new revenue line that we can use to offset cost, deliver value back to the client, or is it more on the UX side or control or compliance? Where's the need for the proprietary stablecoin come from?
I think it's an excellent question, because it's, when you look at where stablecoins are used today, they're predominantly 95% in trading, right? It's exactly as you said. It's in trading, it's in exchanges, and that's the dominance around it. As I mentioned, our core of a mission for PayPal is to revolutionize commerce globally. And so it comes back to commerce, it comes back to connecting consumers and merchants, and it comes back to exactly as you said, driving more efficient payments, more efficient connections, and more better and seamless ways to do that. And so that's really where our focus is. And from a payments perspective and stablecoins, it's still emerging in the industry. So I don't think there is no kind of winning leader from a payments perspective around that. There's a lot of new companies, and from the traditional players to crypto players, that are all kind of evolving. They're seeing the value of stablecoins and adopting that in. So we're really excited to be part of this momentum, to lead the industry forward, to really figure out and like drive this whole adoption and aspect of it. And so that's really core to why we're doing this. And when you think about just PayPal itself within our own network, we have essentially PayPal balances that can be held, right? And in the simplest form, PayPal stablecoin is just a more programmable, faster, tokenized way to be able to connect the world through that. And I want to also just highlight one thing that you touched on, which is really important to us. It's this: we're obviously a company who have like touched people's lives and their financial lives, and so we take money extremely seriously. And so it is very important to us to be super regulatory forward, compliance forward. We hold all these things from customer protection to customer identification, extremely important for us in the ecosystem and how we approach things. Those are fundamental to our design principles, and really core to kind of how we develop and think about products and go to market.
Fantastic. Okay, so it's designed for payments, for commerce. It works better within the PayPal ecosystem, and it can provide you with the compliance that you think end users will benefit from, and what you guys also have to comply on with.
And it'll unlock new places, right? It'll unlock new geographies, unlock new use cases. I don't think B2B, for example, has been figured out yet in the world, right? I think that there's a very high I feel like it's the next frontier, kind of where stablecoins can actually help really drive forward in B2B use cases. So I think the whole, like, if you were going to rebuild PayPal today, you would build it on chain. At a minimum, you would build it with the interconnectivity to the world, the fiat world with it. So there is no doubt this is where the industry is going. And we have an opportunity to be a leader in this, to be able to change and evolve the way that payments get used on chain and drive ultimately better value back to customers.
That makes total sense, and it's a good transition to, if we can separate, if it makes sense. I know there's value in the intersection. There's one thing like PYUSD within the PayPal ecosystem, and then how it's being used outside. Can you comment on how is PYUSD being used? Who is using it? What for? How much? Just to get a sense of the adoption within the ecosystem.
When we think about in our ecosystem today, we're live in the US market predominantly. And the use cases we have where users can engage with it are more around, like, there's trading, you can convert to your stablecoin from, for example, your Bitcoin. You could send it P2P to anybody in the network, or obviously outside of the PayPal network. We were pretty much the first use case where you could see a PayPal and Venmo interoperability between our two wallets, right? And then Venmo even candidly internationally, right? Because now a Venmo user could send crypto outside to anyone in the world. And so these are the use cases. And then obviously, and we have, and as I mentioned, like, when you think of us, we're payments, we're checkout, we're really around commerce. And so you also can use your crypto at any PayPal or millions of PayPal merchants, right? And so we seamlessly offer this because we allow consumers to be able to sell their crypto and use it at millions of PayPal merchants. And merchants don't even have to do anything in our branded checkout experience, right? They receive it in fiat. It's a very, very natural experience for them. So those are things when we think of in the ecosystem that we've launched, where those use cases are adopted.
So currently, are only US PayPal consumers able to hold PYUSD on their PayPal accounts?
In our PayPal and Venmo, yes.
And for merchants, you mentioned this automatic conversion. Are US-based merchants able to hold also and to settle on PYUSD?
Yes. So I should have said PayPal customers and not PayPal consumers. Today, also in the US, PayPal merchants can also hold PYUSD. We also offer 4% rewards for our users, both consumers and merchants on our platform.
And from your rollout plans or strategy, what's the thinking, and how does the use case change as you move from geography to geography? Because for US consumers to hold like a USD denominated coin, there's fewer incentives unless I'm using it for something else, as collateral for trading or something like that. But within payments, the value proposition can be different if you're thinking about somebody who's trying to protect from inflation and so on. So can you comment on like what the plans for internationalization are?
And so just remember, right, so it's a US consumer that in our wallet or our merchant can hold it, they can actually, right, they can transfer to anybody internationally with the transfer feature. So we actually are already connecting exactly to your use case. I can send to somebody in Argentina, into Brazil, into anywhere, right, in any wallet, right? Whether it's a MetaMask wallet, a Phantom wallet, into a Coinbase wallet. So that is already step one of the connection, right, to the world and to payments. And then I think the second thing is like exactly as you said, we do have plans to continue to roll out the expansion of our own capabilities more internationally and globally. And those are obviously dependent on different regions. There's different regulations and different licensing and considerations that we have, but that is part of our plan to continue to roll out and expand.
And in terms of like the transactions that you are seeing with PYUSD, is there anything that has surprised you, like where the people are sending the money to, the ticket, the velocity, like something that you might think was different than what you guys originally thought?
I think it's honestly been in line to expectations. Like we've been, we were the first, I think, I believe it's the first fintech to launch a stablecoin, right, from a payment, when you think about payments companies. So we've been a bit ahead of this game and starting to think about stablecoins for a while. And with that, you obviously, we've taken a very thoughtful and deliberate approach into an intentional one into releasing the features that we have into relation to the stablecoin, and we release rewards. So as you start to continue to see us drive the engagement and additional features, and then take that and expand those capabilities globally, these are the things that we've been very thoughtful and deliberate as we go through, and I think the adoption and the reception has been also kind of appropriate within that, in line to our expectation.
And if you could share a sense of, like, is this something that, like all merchants are using right now, all merchants are enabled? Probably not. Any categories, like that are where this is happening? So I was talking to people, like in tourism, where you definitely want to have all the payment methods, or like large luxury purchases. What's like the usage dynamic from a category perspective?
Yeah, so when we just step back and think about just crypto users in general in the world, and you think about then the overlap that demographic has with the specific categories, you're 100% right. The categories that we see the predominant overlap with are things like the luxury vertical, into gaming verticals, into travel, into like bookings and hotels, etc. So these are exactly, and that's just because the correlation of users who are holding or familiar with cryptocurrencies today are exactly more active, I think, in adopting in these spaces.
Fantastic. That makes total sense. So there's let's say a bunch of people who are PayPal users but also crypto users, and now they have their like crypto holdings that they have for whatever reason, and now they're using that to pay, and since it's supported by their like PayPal wallets, that's what they're choosing. Is that how you're seeing it? Like the adoption is coming from the crypto natives?
I think we have both sides of the adoption. So there's remember, like we're a large like mainstream wallet, and they'll focus right now on the US, to your point, right? And so within that you have multiple different bases. There's people that are more like, we call them crypto curious. So we kind of have a range as we think of and the consumers and your adoption curve of and your familiarity with cryptocurrencies. So there's the curious that, hey, it's a topic of the town, right? You can't turn left or right without seeing something in the news these days, or hearing something, or your friends friends or your circles. And this is exactly where like crypto is very social as a topic, and that's where a lot of the conversations happen. And so there's a lot of people that just, they don't want to go create, they don't want to deal with complicated like seed phrases and places that they're not familiar. They want a place where they trust, a place that they already have a financial relationship with, and then they just want to explore into cryptocurrencies. And that's why, so we see like users that just want to kind of explore there and kind of curious into it and adapt. And then there's a bit more of like the, kind of can think about them as enthusiasts. They're a lot more like, they're more sophisticated in their engagement with crypto. They're more sophisticated in their handling. Maybe they do DeFi out. They might have multiple wallets. And so they're really kind of thinking about the ecosystem. Again, maybe they want to diversify. They're also a PayPal user and they extend their financial relationship with PayPal and continue. And then obviously there's the super users, right? Or the ones that are extreme like traders, right? Day in, day out, they are pretty much almost trading every day. And there's a cohort of that. And there's a part of the base that is those. And again, obviously the holistic part of why everybody kind of engages with PayPal and crypto in a sense, again, when we talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the cryptocurrencies we solve, is really around that, the ease of the UX, the simplicity of you already have a relationship with us. It gives you one place where you anyway might have our debit card, you might have other parts, you check out with PayPal. So it's really like an all-in-one nice place to have your assets in. Stablecoins are an entirely different thing. And so like when we think about stablecoins, we actually think that, as an industry, we actually also need to start thinking about potentially maybe even educating and thinking a little bit deeper on how cryptocurrency and stablecoins kind of, from a nomenclature, really play together. Because I think for the crypto curious, like those beginners in it, they get very confused because they think that stablecoins are volatile just because it's termed under the words cryptocurrency, right? So it just has this perception and this connotation because they think about it more from a Bitcoin's price if it's going up and down. And so there's a little bit more education that needs to be done in the industry around just stablecoins and the fact that they're, like, for example, like ours, pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar. And so it's a stable value that you'll always be able to redeem from PayPal 1-to-1. And so I think that one, and that's the one where I think it's still an emerging use case, but the most predominant one you see people will use today within our wallets is like they just want to go in and out of their crypto in our wallets and convert, right? And so again, it's more trading, but our focus is to really drive towards where payments will be and drive that value in the ecosystem.
And in that payments ecosystem or a landscape, so you guys started with consumers, then you went to like the PayPal like network merchants, which tend to be like on the smaller side, but you also have Braintree, and I understand Braintree merchants don't have the payment method yet. Is that something that's on the works? And along that same line of things that might be missing from the PayPal ecosystem, I saw earlier this year the announcement of like PayPal World and all these other digital wallets being connected together with something that sounded like the most logical infrastructure to do that would be PYUSD. So can you comment on what's missing of the pieces of the PayPal ecosystem?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you already got there already, like in imagining, like, right, as you think about like PayPal World being a network that connects wallets and connects commerce and use case, you can imagine a world where PYUSD could be something that's effective, in that. And so, but when we think about exactly to your point, and this is also like a priority and an objective for us on our team, is just continuing to integrate further into our own payment use cases, right? So be it in the future PayPal World or other experiences more integrated within our own apps, P2P and other use cases that we have. Pay with crypto, which you're referring to, is a payment method that we announced, I think it was a couple months ago that we announced, and we did announce it around more of the commerce platform and smaller merchants, as you mentioned, and we do have plans to release it to our larger merchants next year, so that you will continue to see us evolve on this. And Pay with crypto is really, really interesting product, because this is actually that example we were talking about where we're connecting I think it's like over 650 million users, right? Crypto users around the world, to be able to now pay at a PayPal merchant. And for them, like for a consumer, on the consumer side, now their crypto has more access and connectivity to merchants, right? To US merchants. And then when you think about it, their experience is better because when in a traditional international payment, right, you have high credit card declines, you have other things that really prohibit whether it's costs or whether it's declines as part of the experience. And now with Pay with Crypto, you could actually use whatever crypto, over 100 cryptocurrencies we allow, and in multiple different of the popular wallets, you can now connect and use that. And then on the merchant side, this is part is really gets us excited too. Like now these merchants, they don't have to touch crypto, they don't have to change any of the operations. If they already have PayPal and they're already at PayPal, have a relationship with us, it's a very like a small lift for them to be able to accept this product. And it's also a much cheaper processing cost, right? Because again, crypto can help start to reduce processing costs around for customers. So in this use case, and I love this example because it shows you that it can show value back to the consumer and a global consumer, not even in PayPal's like ecosystem. And then for a merchant, it brings back the value and connects the worlds and starts to show how on-chain payments can really continue to develop.
I think there's two ways in which this like acceptance of crypto has evolved in the last couple of years. One would be, okay, let's natively accept crypto or stablecoins or some stablecoins, some subset of tokenized assets. But the other has been, okay, Rain or Bridge coming up with, like stablecoin or crypto-backed payment methods branded by Visa or MasterCard, which it's another way to get the acceptance. You guys are on the mission of, like widening acceptance of crypto. Could you comment at this point how much that feels like a push or a pull from the merchants themselves? Like it's an education, you're missing out on these opportunities, or is it coming from them? And particularly thinking about, like large merchants where, just having crypto on their balance sheet, it's something that they don't necessarily want to handle from, I don't know what line to assign this to.
No, that's exactly why we provide the flexibility. And that's why I was mentioning this Pay with Crypto product. The merchant doesn't have to touch the crypto. Like we exactly want to provide the optionality for merchants. I think your question really hits on like where's the biggest pain point that merchants will have, right? And so in certain verticals, even US merchants, like they operate on very thin margin. And so maybe it's the smaller merchants that feel that most pain. There's also like verticals that just have razor thin margins also just as a business, and they're large enterprises, and that's why then Pay with Crypto becomes really important. And I love the earlier comments that you're making, hey, which verticals are these? And there's a massive overlap between certain verticals and certain crypto consumers. And so what this now enables is those merchants to have like that flexibility to accept the crypto payments, right? So when you think about it, it's where is the merchant's pain point? Is it better operational facility of like just treasury management and how they move money around internally? Is it that they want to attract new customers that they know have a high overlap in their demographic, be it younger, be it where they're being used today? Is it one that's really squeezed on margin and that wants to find cheaper processing rates so that they can, drive and show also an innovative brand edge? And it's also ones, I just talked to a merchant this morning, and they were telling me how their customers are complaining so much about the cross-border fees, and as they do a lot of cross-border payments. So the cross-border fees and settlements and time are actually, merchants can lose money, right? Merchants can lose deals within that. And so these are the places, I think that the mistake to make in stablecoins and thinking about what we're doing is that it's a silver bullet for every payment and a silver bullet for every experience. It's not. There are things, there's perfect product market fit for it, and things that it really can drive the value back into the customer's hands.
Yeah, and in that context, we spoke about it being a payment token and like PayPal being a commerce-driven company. So, and I remember like references in the past around like what the goals were with this, and there was this talk about velocity and like what is the North Star metric that you track for a stablecoin like PYUSD or crypto broadly speaking within the PayPal ecosystem?
I think probably our biggest North Star will be volume eventually, right? Because when you think of payments use cases, you'll think volume is, but underpinning, obviously, there's also adoption metrics, engagement, acquisition, and adoption metrics that would come with that. But if I had just one, I would say at the end of the day, as a payments company, like volume really matters.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like very closely aligned with regular business goals as opposed to fancy metrics that one can come up for a pilot, right? Okay, so it's straightforward taking over the world with payments volume. So far we have spoken about, like payments and things that happen within the ecosystem and that feel more natural to what PayPal has been about for many, many years. I wanted to switch gears to DeFi. One of the things that has been unique about PYUSD is that from day one it's been open. And not only that, open meaning that you can send it to other people, but not only that, it has been integrated with, the largest L1s and has also been quite innovative in, becoming part of DeFi platforms. There was this huge spike in market cap with the Camino yield incentives programs back in the day. And now you have this initiative to drive liquidity through Spark. How does that fit with the other story that we were talking about? Merchants, regular people trying to get 4% on their USD. I think we mentioned briefly the idea of crypto natives wanting trading collateral, but that's a space that other coins are using. So why does it make sense for PayPal to go as aggressively in DeFi?
I think you have to also meet crypto users where they are today. And then that's really what it is. The crypto industry is pretty large, as you mentioned, like Tether, and there's many other coins and currencies out there. There isn't it's not that there's no space anymore for anybody else, right? So I think, and stablecoins, by the way, if you look at some of the predictions in the markets, it's anywhere from 1 to 3 trillion of growth, right? So this is a market that's continuously growing. It's a market that continuously wants choice also. It's a market that appreciates kind of value in it. And so I think for us, it's important to be close to the community. Crypto community is very important. Crypto users are very important. And it's something that you'll continuously see us still signal and be involved with in the market through that. And that also drives and thrives kind of when you think about liquidity and distribution also from a global scale. And that's obviously really important at the end of the day when you think about stablecoins and you think about a global network and you think about global users and access.
And in that line, so specifically about Spark and the recent development, so it went from, I believe, 1 point something billion to now 2.3. That's huge in a couple of days. How is that happening? Who's injecting the liquidity? How is it different from incentivizing yield? What's behind it, if you can unpack it for people who might not be as familiar with how Spark assigns liquidity and so on?
Yeah, again, there's a couple things within that. We've obviously expanded into more chains, and so there's been an expansion of users and chains and access. And then we have in this one, obviously, I think there's some articles in that with Spark. Spark is a huge and very well known, right, institutional kind of player within this aspect of it. And so there is a partnership that we have with them. They help in thinking about, when you think about the investment and incentives that are out there in the market and seeding it in the places that make most sense, right? So this is, again, just it's part of the DeFi play. It's part of being in the ecosystem where users are today. You're going to continue to see our growth through, be it other partnerships, through different aspects of rolling out new products and new features and more integration, and we'll continue to kind of drive this further in the ecosystem. And exactly as we had talked about, like it's going to be on these three kind of pillars and accesses that we have. One is like being where crypto users are today. Two is continuously thinking about how do we geo expand and bring our kind of wallets and users out. And then three is how do we integrate further into these emerging, as we're talking about, like use cases and where like super high product market fit is when you think about cross-border payments and aspects. So we're obviously we're fully invested, and as you can tell, like we're kind of all in this space and wanting to kind of lead and lean and figure out kind of how we help grow it and help the whole entire ecosystem grow and thrive together.
Mm-hmm. So one of the criticisms back then with the Camino deal was, okay, like all incentives, like liquidity and in crypto is mercenary in some ways, like people are like degens are chasing liquidity where it is, and that ends when the subsidies roll back. So you see this sort of like a different approach. It's a change in direction in that regard, and the idea is for it to be more like sticky.
Yeah, I think you have to kind of step back and sorry if I'm repeating myself, but like to those like three pillars kind of that I was saying. I don't think a winning strategy, you could just have one of those strategies and then that is what it is and that's where you continue to focus. But then I'd say if that's really where the heart is, you'll need to deep dive more into more probably dApps and other areas where into the DeFi ecosystem to find more sticky ways or the next chains and the next areas and be that native coin maybe that people develop on. So it really just depends where at the end of the day your North Star and your vision is. And for us, our North Star and vision is more global access, liquidity, distribution, engagement, volume, and driving and emerging the payment use cases. But as you think about that, you do need to continue to seed in the short to midterm, the active ecosystem that exists. And so I think, our strategies from maybe what you saw in the past to where we are today are quite different to your point. But I think it's a multi-pronged approach that you do like a little bit in parallel. But at the end of the day, we're super clear where our North Star and end vision is and kind of how we want to head towards that.
So spoke about the ecosystem, we spoke about DeFi a little bit, and the idea of the three pillars of finding people like where they are. There's another world which is that like CeFi intersection and where also the networks are playing a role. So there's been a lot of activity and everybody trying to make the stablecoin interoperable with others and one-to-one agreements, and wanted to get your sense around what will that world look like? How is interoperability coming together, and who the actors who are going to enable that are going to be there? Like things like clearinghouses coming to the space, and is it Visa, MasterCard which will be able to like capture their legacy roles in this new world? Is it something completely fragmented? And what role does PayPal play in that, like evolving ecosystem?
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's figured that out yet, to be honest. Like, I think we can imagine, I think the world, in my perspective and just my opinion, if we end up building the payment system of tomorrow on chain exactly as it looks like today in the world, then I don't think we've done it justice. So I think what that means is that you'll see people evolve in their roles exactly as you were suggesting. I think people will take, there'll be new places that players can play. But if you really believe, which I 100% do, which is the world is moving on chain. And that means actually you do need the traditional players to be accepting and adapting and connecting to the on-chain world. You do need the crypto natives to be pulling the on-chain world even further into more directions. At the end of the day, for the world, we do need, sorry, not the end of the world, I don't want to think of that, but we do want an interoperable world, right? We want a place that can drive better connectivity across it. And that's the ultimate mission I think everybody in this industry is trying to get to. It's not just driving the value back, it's just helping people connect. And you need some of these pieces and parts. And not everybody will do them well. And I think that's the other thing. Like, if you try to do every single piece of the equation, you're likely not going to do any of those things well. And so finding your role, and that's why we're very focused, like our role is our core is payments, is commerce, is connecting consumers and merchants. We've established this really well in the not in the on-chain world, and then our goal is to like establish and connect it to the on-chain world. And then you think about PayPal on-chain, on right, offline, online, mobile, like whatever. We should be able to serve and connect these industries to where the future is going.
Mm-hmm. And I know we're running a bit long already on this episode, but there's one thing that's in everybody's minds, which is agentic payments and things like the X402 initiative rolling out. Just wanted to get your thoughts on how machines are going to be able to use things like stablecoins and crypto payments.
It gets me super excited. Like, I just think if you think of, it's another way that people will shop. You can imagine a world that I can have an agent potentially, right, shop for me and pay, obviously within my permissions and everything, and use stable coins to help. And you can use the programmability that, especially in the nature of stable coins, and adapt that into agentic. I think it will be definitely a future way that many people will be shopping. However, obviously there's a journey to still get there. It's still not, there's still things that need to be solved, from identification and wallets and just like trust even in AI and what it does. And, there's many use cases that would need to be thought of, especially as you bring then payments into the equation. So, but I think it's a very exciting world. I think we're at a moment in history, like I don't know that I'll ever see back again in this life, in my lifetime here, right? When you think about it, where AI and stable coins are actually really changing the way that we do commerce, the way we shop, the way we think, the way we interact. And so I think it's really powerful. It's a very fun moment to be where we are, which is building and innovating and driving like new business lines in the ecosystem.
What's stopping us from delivering that vision? Is
Oh,
there anything else that's stopping us? Either regulation? Is there a gap in technology? What's stopping you from like getting every payment on chain tomorrow?
I think it's just a matter of like spending candidly the time and really finding the entire kind of that spark that really drives that flywheel, that right. Like I don't think, because it's still emerging in payments, and so that's not yet fully been figured out what's that right way and right flywheel as you think about the network effects. And so I think that's the area I'd say, but I don't think that's a long term, it's not really stopping. It's just a matter of like iterating, experimenting, moving forward, and then and finding kind of that place. So I don't think anything stops us but ourselves at this point. And I don't think anything slows us down except the speed at which we can run at. So I think we're in the best time and space that I've seen. And we have most of the pieces to be able to push it forward.
Oh, fantastic. Well, with those encouraging words for the builders out there and for everybody in the space, I wanted to really thank you for joining us in the show today, and excited to see what's next for the PayPal ecosystem.
Thank you so much for being here, and great to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.